Hey guys, I'm Janet on occasion, and today I'm basically showing you a big interview, the big old interview I had as part of the sort of press demo, the battle demo that we did for Warhammer 3, Total War Warhammer 3. So this was actually run by the community manager over at CA, Josh. So thank you, Josh, for running this. You'll hear him throughout, making sure everyone's getting their questions in. It was me and a bunch of other content creators, and I'll let Josh introduce the people answering the questions for us, the two developers from Creative Assembly who've been working on the game. So in my group there was myself, Nerd Rage Fred, Akoi, Arkard, Great Book of Grudges, and Gunther's Shadow. So they've all chimed in with their questions throughout this video. I've done my best to clean up the audio because some of it was a bit iffy because of course it was recorded over Discord. So there are issues with that. I tried to get the levels sort of best I could. Could have probably done it better, but it would have taken forever. It's just, diminishing returns past a certain point. So anyway, I hope you learn a lot, because I certainly did. It was a really great interview. All the guys came up with some great questions, and the developers were fantastic in answering what they could. So enjoy.
With us today then, you guys have just played the Warhammer 3 first battle build. Hopefully you had a really good time with it. This is your opportunity to ask questions about Warhammer 3 battle. More specifically that build and what you played there, and then maybe some stuff about broader battle. We'll see. There is a kind of a strict line of what we can and can't talk about. So don't start asking questions about campaign mechanics and stuff like that. We can't go there. With us, we have Jim Whitston. Oh, I've never said it out loud.
Whitston, yep.
There we go. Who is lead battle designer. And we have James Martin, who is our designer. Is there anything else you'd like to introduce about yourselves?
No, I think that just about sums it up.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Janet, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, hi. So I have a million questions, but I'll try not to hog the spotlight at all. First off, I know you said you don't want to talk about the campaign, but I just want to check that the battle that we just played, it's something that your army from campaign would have influence over. It's it's like a quest battle, right?
Yeah, basically the idea behind these battles is that they're going to take place at pivotal points within the wider campaign and are part of the wider campaign's narrative. So, yeah, the sandbox is at the core of any Total War game, and the part of that is making your own army and taking that into battle and finding out what works for you, discovering all the mechanics of your faction and discovering the mechanics of the faction you're up against. And obviously, with the asymmetry between factions that we've embraced within this series, that's an important part of the whole game experience. So yeah, the battle, the army that you create within the campaign will be the one that you're taking in.
I guess wonderful. Just as an extension to that, so obviously you can call in reinforcements during this battle. So is that also dictated by withholding some of the troops from your army, or are they additional reinforcements that you can earn, and can you change what you can call into battle in any way?
So those are given to you through the campaigns. So if you think of when you start a campaign, each legendary lord has their own campaign-specific units, and again, each of these legendary lords are going to have their own lore-specific reinforcement pool to pick from. So you don't have to recruit them in the campaign or anything. You don't have to buy them anywhere. You'll go to one of these survival battles and you'll have this pool of units readily available for you, so you can purchase them within the battle. But that's where they'll stay. But as Jim said before, your campaign army, goes in there, gets the experience, and does the fight, and comes out and comes back to you in the campaign.
Okay, thanks, wonderful.
Someone said, I noticed that large units and characters have a wounded state debuff at 50%. What is the thinking behind that?
So in Warhammer 1 and 2, I think part of the problem we had was that if you compare, say, a Lord or a single entity unit at half health compared to a multi-entity unit, a swordsman perhaps, when the single entity is at 50% health, it still acts and outputs the same amount of damage that it would do at full health, whereas an infantry unit with multiple entities is then most likely at half count entities, so their output's much less. So it's to kind of put them on a level playing field and try and keep them in line with everything else in terms of health percentages.
It's just part of the kind of package of things that we're constantly looking at to make the battles more understandable and approachable for players, both our existing players and players who are new to the series. It's a constant desire to want to kind of streamline the battle process and learning how to play these battles.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Nerd Rage Fred, do you wish to ask your questions?
Yeah. I noticed that the Winds of Power went way above 30. Is that something you increased for just these battles, or is it just something that's going to be increased overall?
So where the survival battles take place in the realm of chaos, it's a place that's full of the winds of magic. So for a survival battle, you have access to all of the winds of magic. It's unlimited, and it allows you just to interact with the spells and abilities much more.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll be familiar from the previous 2 games that in most battles you have a finite amount of winds of magic available to you because they are taking place within the mortal realms. These battles are taking place, on the home turf of one or other of the gods of chaos, and to reflect that, since this is the place where the winds of magic come from, and the fact that these battles are long and involved experiences, so there's far more winds of magic available, and that's going to be a key component in you overcoming the kind of the scale of the challenge that we're setting you with this battle.
Oh yeah, I was thinking more like the actual amount you can use, because that used to be 30, not like the reserve that you could have like 200-300 of. Because I noticed that one was unlimited, but like the actual pool that you have right now, is that increased for everything or just for that kind of battle?
So that should be increased across the board. So it's to try and make it more user-friendly, whereas before people would get, say, confused with the cap that you have of the Winds of Magic being 30 and then the reserves pool. It's now that you'll take from your reserves until that's completely empty, and you can kind of save up the Winds of Magic and spend them, whenever you choose to.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where just trying to make that a more understandable system from the original one, which we designed. We kind of took a look at that and thought maybe that's not quite as transparent as we'd like it to be. So as part of the overall range of improvements we're constantly looking to make across the series, that was one of the things that we kind of identified, and we made a few tweaks to that.
All right, very cool. Thanks. I won't hog the chat now with all of my questions, so I'll just leave the floor to the next.
Sorry, I'm sure we can. We'll have some circle back time. Okoi has said, "Can I just say the models look astoundingly good? Are the human models for Kislev carried over assets from Warhammer 2, or are they completely redone from the ground up?"
As far as I'm aware, everything's done from the ground up. So obviously, you guys will be aware that one of the exciting things about Kislev is that it has been present within the Warhammer tabletop lore pretty much from the word go, but it's never been fully realised as a faction. So we were, massively excited when Games Workshop signalled that they were wanting to fully flesh that out, and we had the opportunity to kind of look over their designers' shoulders as they were going through that process, and then taking what they produced and working out how we were going to transpose that faithfully and authentically into our game, and to offer the players maximum fun as ever, and obviously keying into that asymmetry as well at the design of that race from Games Workshop's point of view, and then from our point of view as well. That was super exciting. But part of that was, they sent us some absolutely fantastic concept art, following through their thought process, and based on that, our modelers have taken that and faithfully reproduced that in our game. So yeah, I think you'll agree the results are absolutely incredible. My particular favourite is the Elemental Bear.
Absolutely. Arkard, do you wish to ask your question?
Yeah. I was just curious. So in Three Kingdoms, we saw that there'd been some tweaks to battle mechanics, in the sense that range units, for example, were able to pivot without you controlling them if they were being flanked, and would continue to shoot. And also single entities like your lord and stuff, when they were moving through your own units, the units would get out of the way and allow them to move through your own units far more smoothly. Is there a reason that that kind of stuff wasn't implemented into Total War Warhammer 3?
Well, we have implemented some of the tech from Three Kingdoms into Warhammer 3. I mean, we kind of have to kind of look across the board. You know, this is the third in a trilogy of games, and although we are looking to make constant improvements, we have to kind of evaluate the effect that's going to have across the other games as well. So that was something we decided not to integrate across, but there's a lot of other stuff, graphical improvements with our Warscape engine that are coming across, allowing improvements to lighting and a whole host of other things. So yeah, we do incorporate quite a lot of stuff from other games, but not necessarily across the board.
Okay, so it's just you have to pick and choose. No, I totally understand that. Cool.
Thank you very much. Great Book of Grudges.
Hey, so just a question regarding melee combat. I've realized that I've seen that there's a bit more of a focus towards it, of course, because Chaos doesn't have too much ranged units. But the ranged units that I was using, even without any upgrades, was still doing a lot of damage. Obviously, I have to take into account that, of course, I was told that the units that we're facing against were a bit weaker because of the scenario. But is that something that might get looked into or something? It's just like, for example, I had 3 of the Stretzi, and they gunned down 3 units of Chaos Warriors long before they could get to me.
Yeah, well, I'll let James go into some of his thought process behind the balance of this particular demo. But what I would say is we are post-alpha at the moment, but we haven't carried out the process of, you know, a full balance across the game. So we've kind of rustled this into rough shape, you know, so that we could give you guys an early look at where we're at post-alpha. But obviously the stage from alpha to beta and then post-beta is where we really kind of drill down into the balance. So I wouldn't read too much at the moment into, you know, the exact balance of individual units or individual unit categories or classes.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. It's more of the case because I theme my content around more lore-friendly stuff and tabletop-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'll get a few questions regarding that, but that does help a lot. Thanks.
So James, do you want to let the guys know specifically about the balance of this demo?
Yeah, so in the office we had, you know, quite a few varied play styles, and obviously some people will go for the more towers, barricades, some go wide, some go tall with the units and just use upgrades and stuff. But also on top of that, you know, you've got the whole battle currency system, and it's really trying to find the balance to get them all working, but allow, you know, every person to play in their own way. So, you know, the balance for this particular demo is at the level it is to kind of allow more people to approach it in different ways. So obviously some people will find it easier than others, but we wanted to keep a certain level of challenge.
Yeah, so there's certain little tweaks, like the early units you face in the first wave or two are weaker than the ones, you know, towards the middle or the end of the demo, but that's not necessarily how it's going to be in the final game. Like I say, you know, the period post-alpha into beta and beyond beta is where, you know, we're content complete and we get the chance to sit and play what we've created and, you know, polish and hone the balance down. So I wouldn't worry too much about any, you know, slight burrs that you can see in it at the moment.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. The theme is awesome, by the way.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Gunther, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to play this amazing battle. I really liked it. I also loved the ice bears or spirit bears or what they were called. Pretty cool units and felt amazing. Yeah, so my question is, first question is about the hitboxes of large units. Have the hitboxes been reworked? Because I found it a bit unsatisfying in Warhammer 2 to play larger units because they had huge hitboxes and were easily killed by small critters. And the unit collision, I would like to ask a question if the unit collision has been reworked, because I found it a bit unsatisfying in Warhammer 2 either that cavalry units or generals, for instance, charged into your infantry and then just got out of melee combat, and you were basically not really able to catch these units or to bind them into melee. So yeah, those are my questions.
James, do you know anything specific about the hitbox? I have to admit, I'm not aware of anything myself that we've changed with the hitboxes.
Nothing too technical, no. So, yeah, there's nothing special we've done specifically with hitboxes. Other than that, we have kind of looked into unit stickiness, impacts from charges and stuff. So, you know, there's been general improvements made across the board. So hopefully that's what you're seeing in the battle today.
Yeah, so it felt better to play this battle, so compared to other experiences like in Warhammer 2.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's kind of the thing I was mentioning earlier. We have the opportunity now post alpha to really go through and look at all that kind of stuff in detail. Again, look at the kind of feedback we're getting from you guys, the players, as well, and feed that into the stuff we're working on.
Excellent. Janet, you have an additional magic question.
Yes, well, it's about magic, rather than being a magic question. Laws of magic. Obviously, we've got ice magic with Kislev now, which is brand new. Loving it, by the way. But do Kislev get any access to any other laws of magic?
Yeah, they Games Workshop have created also another new law alongside the one that you saw in this battle, and that's the Law of Tempest. James, do you want to take the guys through that particular law?
So, personally, I find that the Law of Ice and Law of Tempest together are kind of like a hammer and anvil. So, the Law of Ice, you know, you've got some damaging spells, but it's also about kind of negating the impact from enemies on the engagement, as well as slowing them down to before they reach your battle line. And then the Law of Tempest is a mixture of spells and abilities that kind of enhance your charging, so you know it's you on the offense, as well as your missile capabilities, mixed in with some damaging spells that kind of disrupt, you know, explosions, winds. So, you know, on one hand you can use the Law of Ice to kind of set yourself up, get yourself a good strong line, and then Law of Tempest to come in and flank around the side. So they kind of complement each other really well.
That's amazing. That's more than I was expecting. I thought you'd say, oh yeah, they've got light and life or something. So that's wonderful. Can't wait to see it.
Excellent. So, assuming there are 4 survival maps in total, are the other 3 the same layout with different texturing and backgrounds for the other 3 Chaos Gods, or are they unique?
Well, I mentioned previously that these take place at pivotal points within the campaign and the core narrative of the campaign, and each of them is taking place within one or other of the gods, the 4 Chaos Gods realms. So you've seen the one here, that's Khorne. He's the god of rage, blood, slaughter, all of that good stuff. So the battlefield reflects his nature, so you saw the kind of fountains of blood and skulls and fire and all that kind of thing. If I go and engage in one of these battle in Nurgle's realms, it will be a very different visual and gameplay experience in terms of Nurgle, obviously the god of plague and also kind of unbound growth and so on. So if you go into his realm, you're going to see lots of strange demonic vegetation, buboes, pus, all that kind of thing. And yeah, the layout will be different. Obviously, we don't want to just carbon copy the gameplay from one to the next. Each one of them is going to be very individual. It's been great to see with the tech improvements that I mentioned earlier, integrated across from elsewhere, how the artists have been able to kind of leverage that to really go to town, to really hit the flavour and the lore nail on the head, you know, with the way these battles look and play out.
Thanks very much. Great Book of Grudges, you've asked if we can ask about the roster.
Yeah, so obviously, without confirming or denying it, it's not possible. It's just regarding the roster. Is this the complete roster for Kislev and the complete roster for Khorne, or are we obviously missing a few things because it's still very early access?
To be honest, we're missing some things. We could have crammed everything in, but we thought that would have been a mistake, trying to, you guys trying to get your head around however many units in the Kislev roster, however many units in the Khorne roster, all within the kind of the battle that you've just experienced. So yeah, we've got some other stuff that we'll be talking about later on in our communications. But there's some super exciting stuff, and then obviously, some of the other factions we haven't even touched on yet. I've mentioned the importance to us of the kind of asymmetry of the feature sets and the rosters, the spell laws, the heroes, all that kind of stuff. There's so much to go into that I think it would be a mistake to try and do everything up front. So we've given you a pretty good flavour of what makes up a Kislev army, but there's definitely some stuff that we've held back, and similarly with the Khorne stuff.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe it was Arcard.
Hey. So obviously with this map, we saw a massive difference between this map and the kind of maps we've seen in Total War Warhammer 2. With a lot of the maps in Total War Warhammer 2 ultimately being slightly different elevation, a few trees, but basically just a square. There were very few that actually had terrain changes which you could use to your strategic advantage. I just wondered if there was like if what we saw with this map, with how many different choke points there were. Obviously, I don't expect all maps to be having you to build stuff, but is there a new approach to maps in Total War Warhammer 3 than there was in Total War Warhammer 2?
I would say that there are certainly new maps, there are new battle types, battle modes. Any battle that players have played in the first 2 games in the trilogy, all of that good stuff is still there. We're not, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That stuff is still present. What we're looking to do with this one is go bigger, badder, better, and not rest on our laurels, as it were. We want to keep adding additional gameplay styles to offer to the player. Obviously, these battles take place within an epic length campaign, and it's easy to keep offering up the same kind of battle experience to players, and your palate becomes jaded after a while. We want people, at 2 a.m. just one more turn thing. If it happens to be a battle during that next turn, we want players to be excited at the prospect of, it's a new battle type here. So certainly we're looking to incorporate new elements within the new battle modes. The old stuff will still be there as well, in support of all of that. So nothing to worry about from either side of the fence.
Awesome, thank you.
Nerd Rage Fred?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, I saw the Bloodthirster had like a flying little ability thing. What's it called? Like the passive ability? Like, is that a toggle now for some of those things that they can just toggle if they're going to fly or walk around?
So we've got an attribute just to show which units can fly and can't fly, just to kind of make it more readable, more usable for new players.
Oh, all right then. I was just hoping for that. Well, thanks for answering the question. Yes, I was wondering more that if like cavalry was buffed now, because we've had like a range meta for Warhammer 2 for a couple of years. So I was just wondering if maybe cavalry was deadlier and stuff like that now, but that might have been just a quest battle. Well, this battle build, since we were fighting weaker stuff as well. But I was noting the cavalry was doing way more than it would have done in Warhammer 2.
I think certainly the balance of this particular demo, would have shown the cavalry in their best light. But as I mentioned earlier, we are, constantly looking, and particularly in this kind of post-alpha to beta setting, we're looking at all of those kinds of interactions between units, whether there's anything we could improve from the previous games about that sort of thing. So yeah, certainly that's one thing that we are looking at.
All right, awesome. Then it was just about engine upgrades as well. Like I felt like it was much smoother, but now, like in hindsight, after I wrote it down, obviously you've upgraded it quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is the joy of producing these games in a trilogy. We're not stuck back in, I can't even remember what year we did the first game. Was it 2015 or was it before then? But anyway, that's by the by. We are able to incorporate improvements as we go along, both in the big tentpole releases, which this is the final one of, and also through the program of DLC and free LC that are in support of that. So I mentioned earlier that we managed to incorporate some graphical tech over from the 3K game, which has allowed us to push certain really broad range of graphical improvements. Yeah, that's just part and parcel of that.
Nice. I also had one last question, but I'm not sure you can answer this one. Is like these survival battles, can you fight these outside of the Like I assume these survival battles will be in like the Warhammer 3 campaign kind of thing, like Vortex is for Warhammer 2. But will other factions be able to play these as well, or will they only be for the main campaign, so that like maybe you can play it as on the big combined map as well that's going to come out eventually?
So you can play these in the front end in both custom and multiplayer battles. So that allows you to kind of pick your own starting roster as well as your own reinforcement pool. So you can, mix up your rosters, play whatever style you like, and then you can also do this co-op multiplayer.
All right, thank you. I think that's all my questions.
Okoy, I see your question about siege battles. I answered it in the chat, but I can give you the officially worded answer that I have on this, which is we're really excited to go into more detail on this aspect of battle soon. We can't go into too much detail now, but we have listened to fan feedback and will be implementing some features which will improve all aspects of gameplay. Janet, do you wish to ask your question? I think we're running out of time, but we're also running out of questions, so I'm not too concerned yet.
Oh, that's great, because this feels to me like a brilliant finale question. I'm sure someone will sneak something in a second. Do you have any news on the release date?
Classic.
That'd be a strong no, Janet.
I mentioned that we're post out we're moving towards beta. We've got so much amazing stuff that we're, can't wait to talk to people about in the interim. We're not talking about the release date as yet, but obviously as soon as we are, you'll be one of the first to hear about it.
Thank you.
Nice question, though. Very cheeky. So I think maybe our last question, unless anyone else has anything to pop in. I haven't read this through yet, but I'm assuming it's one we can answer. Expanding on the map question, I was a big fan of the maps in Troy, as they were varied in terms of terrain and impassable sections, overlooks, cliffs, and choke points, as opposed to the very much flat and open maps of Warhammer 1 or 2. Will Warhammer 3 be going in this direction more so, or sticking with the more traditional open battle maps without being able to give too much away? Looking at the incredible quality of the map in the demo, I'm excited to see the new landscapes.
Yeah, I think there'll be a far greater mix of terrain types within those battles. Obviously, some of that will be more significant than others. A lot of it will be the artist kind of pushing the visual side of things, but we certainly do have some maps where we've been far more adventurous in terms of the terrain. Yeah.
Excellent. I see Arkard's last question. I know we can't talk too much about balance at the moment, but is that something we will be able to feedback later with a different build? This isn't the last time you'll play Warhammer 3. You guys are going to have further builds down the line, and as I'm sure we get closer to release, you'll have the opportunity to have some feedback in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we have our internal kind of balancing procedures as well. We also have access to an awesome group of veterans who come and help us with that aspect of things as well. I mentioned that at the beginning of the series, we decided to embrace the kind of asymmetry between all of the races that Games Workshop have created, and that immediately volunteered us for a huge balancing challenge, but we were happy to take that on because we could see that is actually at the core of what makes the difference between all of these races in the tabletop game. And as ever, we're kind of really keen to be authentic to our source material, and we think it's kind of strengthened our game. So yes, we've taken on that extra work, but as we've gone through the trilogy and here we are on the third game, we've kind of become increasingly comfortable with that process. And yeah, we're always looking for outside voices even to voice their opinion on that, and we take that on board.
Well, I believe we have hit the end of our queue. Thank you very much to the developers for answering those questions. Thank you very much to the content creators for asking them.
Yeah, cheers guys. Thanks for coming along, and
thanks for playing.
Hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.